It's time for us to take a look at some of our news for this Friday morning. First and foremost, as tensions between China and the United States continue to ramp up right now, China has started addressing the issue of using force to retake Taiwan. In their state-run newspaper, an editorial saying basically, look, Chinese needed to get ready to take Taiwan back by force. This is I think the last time they did it really close was 1996 when they fired a bunch of missiles into the water between China and Taiwan, and the United States responded by sending an aircraft carrier into the strait to go right between the two countries. Remember, part of the issue here is that the United States continues to advance this so-called one China policy in which they refuse to actually recognize Taiwan as its own country, and China says this is still part of our own territory. So, once again, tensions are getting higher. Meanwhile, a Russian envoy says that the West's interference in Ukrainian affairs triggered a major crisis in Europe. Also, Russia noted that they are determined now to eliminate their dependence on Western technologies. They are creating a new department that's going to advance the idea of digital economy to protect national interests through a variety of mechanisms, creating work conditions for large domestic IT companies, and supporting Russian companies in their endeavors to enter foreign markets. Part of the issue, however, is that they're also going to try to preserve traditional forms of communication. They said that they're not going to limit people's access to the technology, but they want to eliminate the dependence on Western technology. I think we're beginning to split hairs here in this issue, especially of, well, now that the cat is out of the box, or whatever that is, how do you know? At this point, you can't control information like they used to be able to, and unless, of course, you completely eliminate the internet. Some people are pushing for that. That EgyptAir crash back in May, Egyptian investigators say that they have recovered traces of explosives off some of the victims. The French investigators say not so fast. However, they also say that they're not getting the cooperation, working with the Egyptian investigators that they want. They just want to get the French victims home. This happened in May, remember. The European Union leaders have agreed to extend anti-Russian sanctions for another 6 months. It will go on now through July of 2017. And although most Europeans don't believe the sanctions are effective, they feel like they have to do it or else they'll seem weak. Viktor Yankovic, remember the former president of Ukraine that was ousted? He testified in a Moscow courtroom, part of a lawsuit that's going on about that civil war in Donbass area, saying basically, look, this was a coup. Part of that, of course, is to try to make sure that they get some kind of legal grounding, recognize that it was an illegal government that was set up in Ukraine. The Aleppo situation, it looks like the fighting has halted again, and now the evacuation has begun. Several trucks left Thursday. It's going to take a continuous stream, a convoy of trucks to get the civilians out. The residents of Corpus Christi have been warned to avoid tap water because of a chemical contamination. This is interesting because they said boiling it, letting it stand, adding any of these other additives is not going to help. Water's contaminated. Don't use it. How would you feel if you got a notice from your local official saying, don't use the tap water? By the way, remember those pipeline protesters in North Dakota? Turns out there was an actual pipeline leak in which over 4,000 barrels of oil went right into a creek, and it happened right there in North Dakota, just a couple 100 miles away from where the protests are going on. But that would never happen. Russia and Japan have now pledged officially to work together in the Kuril Islands, and some senators in the Philippines have officially called for Duterte's impeachment after he admitted on TV that he personally used to kill suspected criminals as a sign to the other police, look, if I can do it, you can do it. He was the mayor of Davos, and as the mayor, he would personally execute suspected criminals. Grounds for impeachment? A couple of senators in the Philippines think so. However, the likelihood that he'll be impeached is very, very low. And lastly, a story from Pravda today. That's right, the old Russian newspaper taken over after the fall of the Soviet Union. It is now Pravda.ru or PravdaReport.com. Asking the question, why does the EU want to ban Russian Orthodox expression? There was a bill passed in Brussels in November that basically specifically bans Russian broadcasts of the Orthodox religion on the radio. Sounds remarkably similar to what happened the other way around, right? Do you remember that back at the Voice of America, that whole idea of the freedom lovers beaming not just religious but messages of freedom and liberation and all this other stuff, beaming them directly into Russian-held territories and the Soviet. Remember that? Well, now it's gone the other way, and they're saying that the Orthodox is too aggressive. And so they're banning Russian Orthodox expression and religious broadcasts in the EU. We're going to talk about that in our commentary today. Remember, if you like what I'm doing, please support me by becoming a subscriber or by becoming a patron at Patreon. And make sure you tell your friends about RadioFreeSpeech.com. Thanks.